Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the incredibly intense, parallel opening narratives of H.D. Carlton's dark romance thriller, Hunting Adeline. We're going to look strictly at the source material to map out exactly how the author sets up the absolute, explosive stakes of the story right from page 1. But before we get too deep, we need to talk about the author's own explicit warnings. Carlton makes it abundantly clear right out of the gate that we're dealing with some incredibly severe themes here: human trafficking, graphic violence, severe psychological trauma. Now, we're just impartially reporting on these elements today, but it is super crucial to understand that the author is using these strictly as fictional plot devices. They drive this profoundly dark narrative forward and set a very clear baseline expectation. Literally no one in this story is safe. The circumstances are, quite frankly, harrowing. And you can feel that dread immediately. Just look at this frantic, scribbled text. It visually captures the psychological horror and sheer panic that completely soaks the story before we even properly meet our protagonists. I mean, it's a visceral representation of absolute desperation, right? It throws us, the readers, directly into this mindset of total claustrophilia and terror. It's a really chilling prelude to the nightmare our main characters are about to endure. Which brings us to Section 1, Adeline the Diamond and Zaid the Hunter. The author actually structures these opening chapters to violently bounce back and forth between two radically different perspectives. On one hand, you have Adeline in an incredibly vulnerable state. She's been run off the road, dragged through glass, and is currently blindfolded, concussed, drugged, and in absolute agony. Then, on the flip side, you have Zaid. He just survived an underground bombing and is literally being held at gunpoint, yet his internal monologue is entirely hyper-aware and calculating. He isn't feeling fear at all. He's actively formulating a massacre. The contrast is just wild. Let's focus in on Section 2, Adeline's Nightmare. When Adeline finally wakes up, the reality sets in. She's in the hands of a dark web syndicate, immediately surrounded by deeply unsettling, street-level threats. First, there's Rio, this ruthless guy who actually dragged her from her car. He's described with dark tattoos, laurel leaves on his throat, and just this near-feral appearance. Then there's Rick, his grungy, super-erratic accomplice. And rounding out the nightmare is Dr. Garrison, a shady underground doctor who is only stitching up Adeline's lacerations to protect her market value. None of this is out of compassion. Each of these men plays a really sinister role in keeping her alive just enough to be sold. And that brings us to a crucial point, perfectly captured in this quote from the text. Her captors do not view her as a human being at all. To them, she is a highly lucrative asset. They actually refer to her specifically as a diamond, purely because of her romantic connection to Zaid. They know that putting Zaid's one and only up on an auction stage is going to make his enemies literally froth at the mouth to buy her. It's a deeply terrifying realization for Adeline. Her entire worth to these men is completely tethered to the man who is frantically trying to find her. Now let's switch gears to Section 3, Zaid's capture. Meanwhile, in Zaid's incredibly desperate storyline, he makes a massive discovery through the smoke of that underground bombing. The mastermind holding a gun to his head, it's Claire Sainsbury. Claire is a woman who essentially weaponized her own history as an abused wife to secretly pull the strings of this massive dark web trafficking ring. She was hiding behind the guise of a weak victim while actually running the entire horrific enterprise from the shadows. And her villainous ideology is just chillingly clear here. She argues to Zaid that evil is completely inescapable. In her mind, even if Zaid destroys the current trafficking rings, new ones are just going to rebuild stronger. So, because she believes the world will never, ever stop victimizing people, she decided, hey, I might as well actively profit from the darkest desires of men, rather than try to fight them. It's a deeply cynical, absolutely terrifying justification for her empire. But Zaid's unyielding response to this is what creates such fantastic tension. When Claire threatens to make him watch Adeline with a new master before killing him, Zaid doesn't cower, not even a little. Instead, he flashes this feral smile and says, "Better make sure those ropes are extra tight." It perfectly proves to the reader that he is a uniquely dangerous captive. Battered, broken, held at gunpoint, it doesn't matter. She absolutely refuses to show an ounce of fear. So if we look at the overarching threats Zaid is dealing with compared to Adeline, we're talking about a massive difference in scale. Unlike Adeline's gritty, street-level kidnappers, Zaid is going up against the very top of the syndicate's food chain. He's dealing directly with Claire, the mastermind, Patrick, this hulking, heavily armed henchman, and the massive, invisible infrastructure of the society itself.
But even in immense physical pain, Zaid executes this brutal, highly coordinated escape from the back of a moving transport van alongside his right-hand man, Jay. It plays out like a movie. First, he uses a hidden earpiece to subtly signal his men, pretending to talk about his grandma of all things, while antagonizing Patrick just to bide time. Second, his men aggressively ram the van from behind. And finally, using the total chaos of the crash, Zaid wraps his arm around Patrick and breaks his neck instantly. It is a wildly violent, tactical escape.
Which leads us right into Section 4, the ultimate bounty.
So he makes it to the safety of his team, but that relief, yeah, it's incredibly short-lived. Jay drops a total bombshell. A staggering $12 million bounty was placed on a dark web forum for anyone who could capture Adeline alive. Her picture, the exact author photo that actually first drew Zaid to her, was posted right alongside this massive price tag, $12 million. That is an amount of money that absolutely guaranteed every single criminal in the dark web would be hunting her. But somehow, it gets even worse. Jay then reveals the specific identity of the person who answered this lucrative ad and actually took Adeline. He drops a single name, Max. Max is a known, incredibly bitter enemy, and hearing that this specific man has his hands on Adeline, that is the exact moment Zaid's fragile, calculating control completely shatters into a million pieces.
The author leaves us with this gripping, truly unforgettable image of a man utterly unhinged. Once Zaid is finally admitted to the hospital for his bombing injuries, the full realization of what has happened to Adeline just completely takes over. He has a terrifying physical meltdown. He violently rips out his IVs, throws medical equipment across the entire room, and get this, when the nurses try to strap him down, his all-consuming grief and rage are so intense that he literally stands up with a 200-pound hospital bed strapped to his back. It is a stunning, raw display of monstrous power fueled by absolute despair.
So what does this all mean? This explosive opening setup begs the ultimate question that's going to propel readers through the rest of the book. As you walk away from this explainer today, I want you to ask yourself, with a $12 million bounty on her head and a brilliant, ruthless mastermind like Claire pulling the strings of the society, will Zaid's monstrous fury be enough to save Adeline from being sold into absolute darkness? Or has the diamond already been lost to the dark web? Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning what lies beneath the surface of the stories we read.